Welcome back, True Seeker. Another beautiful day in the Sun Valley of Washington State. About to go on a hike with my buddy Token Tim. On the drive there, I'd like to talk about what so many people believe about me. There's this widespread perception in the truth community that I'm a shill. And you know, to me, this has always been humorous because I've run a really low-budget operation. I've been censored from day one. I've been harassed. I've been threatened. I've been jailed. I've been burglarized. I've had a car crash through my house. A lot of people think I staged the car crashing through my house. I mean, what kind of idiot would do that? These theories about that I rented a bulldozer to crush my own house. Can you imagine somebody doing that? Pulling up with a bulldozer, getting it off the trailer, putting it in motion, driving over their house. I mean, who could ever do that and get away with it? In a neighborhood? It's not like I live in the middle of the woods. So anyway, I mean, most of the people who think I'm a shill aren't the sharpest tools in the shed. They're the same type of people who drum up a theory like that. Oh, you rented a bulldozer and crushed your own house. No. The story was, at the time, which you should have been following since you're so invested in this story, is there was a guy in a black and white checkered mask making a video about me every single day. And then he ended up putting out a threat for me on Christmas Eve. Said, "You got the numbers for Christmas Eve, Zachary K. Hubbard?" And then what happened on Christmas Eve? You know, my house got wrecked. And then what did I have to do? I had to battle with insurance for 6 months just to get them to pay the majority of the damage, you know. I had to end up paying $7,000 out of my own pocket to get my house fixed. Think about that. And that's all this has ever been for me. A loss in terms of financial revenue, time, energy. But I don't just see it as a loss. I mean, I'm doing this hard work because it's important work. You know, people need to speak truth. People need to make sacrifices and try to stop the agenda. I've been here since 2013, working every single day, you know, 7 days a week, long hours, putting out research that nobody had ever uncovered before. And research that's very condemning to the cabal. I mean, I give the entire truth community evidence to work with to expose what most of us already know. And that's the thing that so many of you don't seem to get. You can go out there and you can show people newspapers and headlines and articles, and it's not enough. It's not enough to show them the facts that are right there on the surface that should be enough. For the sheeping sleep, it's not enough. They need something more. And I understood that because I was speaking out about the truth from the day 9/11 happened until the day I made the discovery of Gematria, which I now share passionately every single day. You know, I understood from speaking out that facts and common sense and evidence, it wasn't enough. You know, say to people, hey, don't you think it's strange that in 1968, 911 was made the national emergency dialing code? World Trade Center construction began. George W. Bush, who was the president when 9/11 happened, graduated from Yale and Skull and Bones. What are the odds of all of those things happening in 68, 33 years before 2001? You know, isn't there something to that? Space Odyssey 2001 came out that year. Isn't that a little strange? Somebody even made a video once and said I was a hairy beast. My arms are hairy, it's true. But that doesn't make me a bad guy or a shill either. So anyway, long time ago, I realized there was something with numbers. I knew that somehow these numbers were these people's giveaway, doing rituals by numbers. You know, 911, a national emergency on 911. Then you find out about how the World Trade Center construction started in the same year that it was made the national emergency dialing code. You know, then you start to observe other things like Building 7. Building 7, what happened there? Is it a coincidence that that building was 47 floors tall? Each floor was 47,000 square feet, and 911 was made the national emergency dialing code on the 47th day of the year? You know, that building falling down, that should have made some alarm bells ring in people's minds. Third building falling 8 hours later in the day that wasn't hit by a plane. How? So anyway, for years, I showed people things like this And they just said, yeah. I'd say, these people who show I'd say, okay, I got one more for you. How about Flight 77? What's that? The FBI can't show us any footage of a plane that supposedly hit the most guarded airspace in the nation? And then you start looking at that. Flight 77 in the 9/11 Commission report. It took off at 8:20. It hit the building at 9:37, 77 minutes later. Flight 77 crashes 77 minutes later. You look at the coordinates for DC, it's on the 77th meridian. You look up how tall the Pentagon, it's 77 feet tall. I mean, doesn't that just seem a little bit too perfect? And then you learn Gematria, which took me forever to learn after speaking out. But once I learned it, I just knew it was the truth, because it was like the extra layer of evidence for the ritual that just showed, okay, there's no way this stuff's a coincidence. When you write out September 11th as words, it sums to 77. When you write out World Trade Center, it sums to 77. You learn about the dancing Israelis who were celebrating in New Jersey and sent back to Israel, and then they admitted that they came here with foreknowledge of the attack and they wanted to document it. Like, how do people just glance over this or say, oh, okay, yeah, whatever, okay, some people from Israel knew, big deal? It's like, what? Big deal, man? I mean, some people knew from Israel? That is a big deal. We send them millions of dollars every day. Who else knew in Israel? You read how a lot of Jewish people didn't show up at work on September 11th? That's messed up. I mean, so what? They just kept it within their community? I mean, it's good to take care of your community, but God, if you know there's going to be some awful event, shouldn't you let everybody know who works in the building? That's the problem. When you have a religious point of view, and this isn't true of all Jewish people, but I mean, when some Jewish people believe this, they believe that, to make it, clear, some Jewish people look at us non-Jews, and a lot of you guys say, oh, I'm Jewish. No, never been Jewish, never been in a synagogue, raised Lutheran. I told the story that my dad doesn't know who his dad is, and possibly his dad is Jewish genetically, but he doesn't even know who his dad is. That's just a possibility. And if you saw both of my parents, you wouldn't think either of them are Jewish. For whatever reason, I look more Jewish than both of them. And I'll admit, I do look a little bit Jewish. I could genetically be it, but that still doesn't make you Jewish. So that's just a dumb theory, too. It's about how you behave, not what you were born to and what you believe. I'm exposing Zionism. To accuse me of being one of them is just idiotic. But, some Jewish people, they look at us non-Jews, the Goyim, the Gentiles, as essentially chicken nuggets. Like, we're here to be processed and used for something, to feed them, to serve their agenda, to work so they don't have to work and labor and pay taxes so they don't have to. And they truly look at us no different than, some chickens in the slaughterhouse, some cattle out on the field. So this is how, they could have foreknowledge and not tell their non-Jewish coworkers, hey, maybe you don't want to come to work on September 11th. And then, again, you learn the Gematria and you really see what's going on. Those dancing Israelis were in New Jersey. Well, New Jersey happens to be the state that sums to 119, just like Orthodox sums to 119, like Star of David, like Ashkenazi Jews. They all sum to 119. What was the day that happened? 11/9. Some people say, oh, Zach, you use all these different ciphers. No, I'm using the ciphers that exist. I'm not using a lot. There's way more that exists. Read the book by Faith Giovanni, written decades ago. I love that the co-author of that book is Dusty Bunker. Like this knowledge is lost in a dusty bunker. Hasn't seen any action since World War I. But in that book, she says there's over 100 ciphers in use in the English language. What have I used? For the majority of the time I've been here, I've used 2 ciphers. Then I started learning about a 3rd cipher, which is an important cipher, In Jewish Gematria, that 3rd cipher I picked up, Tisha B'Av equals 911. How can you overlook that? Tisha B'Av, to remember the destruction of the 2 temples. You got the destruction of the 2 towers on 911. And then you got the leader of Israel, Ehud Barak, coming to the U.S. the next day saying we got to go to war with Afghanistan and Iraq. Exactly what we did do. Like we're following the orders of the chosen ones. Us good little cattle. So anyway, I don't use that many ciphers. There's way more ciphers out there. I use ones based on the alphabetic order, and then I'll commonly throw in the Jewish Gematria, which is another important cipher. Again, there's a film-made Gematria, and that's the cipher they use in there, so obviously it's relevant. But, whoa. Don't you love, like, when there's a car behind me, it's probably like 5 football fields behind me. If the car that was just in front of me would have waited for me to go by, he would have had a nice little window to turn in there. But don't you just hate when cars do that? It's like, you don't need to turn right now, dude, to make me slam on my brakes. You can just wait a second and then go right after me, and then we're not having this situation. Some people just don't know how to drive. I don't know if it's like an eye problem, a judgment issue, something. Anyway, back to the topic at hand. Me being a shill. You know, we don't know who's who out here, but how do you judge who's a shill? Look at what I did for 5 years. I didn't sell a single thing. There wasn't an ad on my channel. I know I just tried ads out this week. I'm telling you, I'm going to end it. I was going to end it the other day. I said I was, but a few people reached out. They said, no, Zach, just try it for another week and see what happens. I don't know. I'm ready to turn off the ads. Every video is being said that it doesn't count. It's not supported by the advertiser, so you don't get paid anything for it. But then they put ads all over your video anyway, which is just a joke. But anyway, for 5 years, worked every single day, didn't sell a single thing, didn't have a single ad, you know. All I did was pumped out knowledge and verifiable information. I never misled anyone. I never twisted the facts. I never distorted the truth. I just said, this is this, and worked by a consistent set of metrics to prove the agenda that is in place. And, you know, what's the definition of a shill? A shill's somebody who takes people and misleads them. I don't know where anyone could ever say I misled them, outside of this one critic from religious people. And their argument will be, well, Zach, you're not religious. You don't have the same religion as me, so you're misleading people from the truth. And, you know, that doesn't make me a shill. Maybe I'm wrong to not have your religion. And I'm acknowledging that's a possibility, you know. And I've always acknowledged. But I just said, like, I'm a spiritual person. I'm not a religious person. And I don't want to let any books do my thinking for me. My belief is, you know, there is a God. There is a creator. People always ask me, Zach, do you believe in God? It's like, how many times have I talked about how I believe in God? Why do people always need to ask this? There's still videos up on YouTube. I have a book where the final chapter I talk about this. But my belief is, you know, God created this world. And God created us with, you know, the characteristics we have. The ability to, you know, think and feel and within know what feels right and wrong. You hurt somebody. How do you feel? Unless you're a sociopath, you feel bad, right? You feel bad about what you did. You hurt somebody. You help somebody. How do you feel? You feel good. You're like, look at that. I helped somebody else out today. You know, it feels good. You lie to somebody. How does that feel? You know, you feel like you did something wrong. You got this guilty conscience. So we're self-regulating, you know. So many people think they need religion. They need this reward system. They need to be treated like a child. You're going to be good or else you're going to go to hell. If you're good, then you get the reward. You get to go to heaven. You know what? To me, that sounds like child's play. Be good, or else. That's not an adult way. Adults like, okay, I'm a human being. I know how this works. I have experience. I know why I shouldn't be bad. I know why it's better to be good. I know why it's nice to help people. You know. So that's how I've always been. You know, I learned those things when I was younger. You know. That said, I mean, I'm still a flawed person. Sometimes I'm a total asshole. You know, what are the 7 deadly sins? I suffer from some of them, you know. Sometimes I got too much pride. You know, I'm too arrogant, too insulting to other people, but that's just part of being a human being, right? You can know right. Sometimes it's, you know, sometimes it's harder to do the right thing even though you know what's right. Because we got all these emotions and stuff, right? Us men, we got like chemicals and testosterone. Well, at least some of us still do. I think all of our testosterone's on the decline, honestly. All the estrogen in the water and God knows what's in the sky and in the food. But, you know, I got all these things that the rest of us have. And plus, I mean, I am an angry person. I grew up in an angry household. I got all the reason in the world to be angry. I realize I've been lied to from a young age. I've been having to deal with, the truth of 9/11 since I was barely 18 years old, and having almost nobody identify with me and almost everybody demonize me for speaking out and questioning. So, there's a reason I am the way I am. A lot of people don't like me because of my attitude and my rants. And at the same time, some people like me for those exact things. So that's the thing, you can't please everybody. But anyway, if you can't see that I'm an authentic person and I've always been a straight shooter, I don't know what to say for you. You think because some guy makes a shitty analysis video? Look, when I documented that my house was crashed into, I didn't ask for any money. I didn't set up any fundraiser. I just said, look, whoa, there's like this huge dust storm. I haven't seen anything like this since I lived in Phoenix. Anyway, when my house was crashed into, I didn't ask for anything. I didn't raise any money, nothing. The reason I documented it is because I was under threats at the time, and I just wanted people to know what was going on in my life. And then I got like 30 YouTube channels making videos saying that I crashed into my own house and I'm a shill. And one of those people had just said that their computer was on fire while on a live stream and talking about it for 5 minutes trying to raise money. I mean, give me a break. And somehow people think that guy's authentic. The guy whose subs went from 10,000 to 200,000 overnight. Took him 7 years to get to 10,000, which was a miracle because the guy's a moron. Now he's got 200 and some thousand subs, after he bought them all. After the guy with the checkerboard mask who was threatening me said he employs that guy. So a lot of you, I mean, you just can't see the obvious, sadly. But yeah, I just get sick of listening to people say, oh, Zach crashed into his own house, he's a shill. It's just like, God, you guys are dumb. I mean, I've never given you any reason to say I was a shill. None. I mean, none, period. And who the hell would crash into their house on Christmas Eve? The truth of what happened was, and that's the other thing, that piece of shit Russian Vids who was a shill, he made like 5 videos about my house crash, and I'd already put out a police report because he made one video. He's like, where's the evidence of the police report? So I put out the police report. And then he keeps talking like I didn't put out the police report, like he's not paying attention. But just his shitty analysis, he's like, these tire tracks don't add up. The reason the tire tracks were all spun out like that and didn't line up with the crash of the house is because they didn't even hit the brakes when they crashed in the house. Those tire tracks and all those mud tracks that are off center, that's when they backed out of the house and went over the wet lawn, which is on a slope, which is actually hard to make out in the video. The video doesn't do it justice how much slope's there. But that was no doubt from them backing out in a hurry and, tearing up the lawn as they did after they ripped through the house. So anyway, Truth Seeker, I'm at my destination. Have a great rest of your day. Until next time.